Such a pretty horse. Yep, such a pretty white horse. I know, waiting for showtime. And then this happens. If there's a pee spot strategically placed in the stall, white horse will find it. Fortunately, we have time to clean all the pee before we ride today. Goals. Alright, so what I've done here is I've done a side-by-side of my ride from the 6th of May on the right-hand side to my ride yesterday on the 20th of May on the left-hand side. Now just look at the two sides. You can see how tense he is on the right and how bracy he is, which means his head is up. He's against my hand. He's pulling, very tense in his body. See, when I try to turn him, his head goes up. Now look at the left. Look at how much softer he is in his body and his top line. Now I did not push for the mediums in this test on the left-hand side. I was still pushing a bit on the right. You can see how rushy and tense he is. And also, my trainer's been making changes to the way I sit the trot. So you can see I'm bouncing quite a bit on the right-hand side, and my hands are bouncing around. On my left-hand side, you can see my seat is moving, but my hands are quite a bit quieter. She's also changed the way I ride the shoulder in. So it's a work in progress. I'm still trying to figure out how to move my pelvis and then keep the bend on the shoulder in. So there's quite a few changes that you'll see between these two shows, these two tests. But these are huge changes that we put into play because the test on the right was not very good. So the last two shows I've worked with my trainer at the show, and she's been coaching me prior to me riding and warming him up correctly and then making these changes to my riding style, which is going to take time to solidify. But you can already see the difference between the two rides. You can see how much softer he is, how he's moving much nicer, much more supple in his body than he is on the left. You can see all the tension on the left. The video on the right is from the 2 weeks ago, where you can see how tense he is, how his head is up, he's against me. And you can see on the left how much softer he is as he's moving through the movements. We're much closer to being where he needs to be for this level. The second level test, they're wanting to see collection essentially like you'd see in the FEI type level tests. And this is why first level to second level is so difficult. And you can see on the right, that was the rein back and how tense it is. So let's look at the rein back on the left. You can see how soft he's standing. And look how soft he reins back. And you can see there's actually, you can see my rein is moving on the left-hand side. Now my walk, turn on the haunches, my walk pirouettes were not very good at either test. The first one on the left-hand side was pretty small, quite small actually for this level, but my trainer's been telling me I need to make them smaller, so I made a really small one, and then when I tried to do the other one, the second one, he got away from me, so I shouldn't have really tried to push it to be that small. I should have just did a bigger one, because that's the side that we struggle with anyway, is the having him bend to the right side. So I have to use a lot of right leg to get him to bend. So it's quite demanding. Now we go into our walk. You can see he's walking pretty well on the right hand side, but look at the difference between the left hand side. Look how his entire body is moving. His neck, his haunches, everything is moving and flexible and soft, which is what they're looking for. Okay, now the canter transition on the right, he ran into it a bit, and you can see how tense he is and how up in the air his head is, and his nose is sticking out. Now you can see he's getting tense on the left, but look at the positioning is a little lower, and it's a little closer to where he needs to be. Now the medium canter is not there yet because we have to actually fix all of the collection at the slower paces, and then we'll start pushing for the mediums again But you can see how much, look at the difference between his carriage and his body between the two shots, the two different tests. So much softer, so much easier to ride, just looks much easier on the left than it does on the right. And that's really what they want to see. They want to see that it looks effortless. Now his head came up a little bit there on the left-hand side because he's losing his balance a little bit, and then I had to balance him and get him back. The transition on the right-hand side was okay, but not great. And then, of course, his head was up and bracing. Now look at the left-hand side transition. Much closer to what we want, where he just comes directly to walk. His head did go up a little bit on the transition on the left-hand side. And you can see on the right-hand side, we're racing through the test because that's what he's doing. He's running. You can see his quarters are coming in because he's crooked, and I can't get him off my inside leg, which is the right. Look at the difference on the left-hand side. He's much straighter. He's much softer in his body. I did give him a half halt there to try to make a difference between the medium and the collected. We basically were going about the same rate anyway. And you can see he's coming through. This is his harder side. So this is the one that we struggle with the most. Now, I was able to keep him fairly balanced through here. He didn't come up as much and brace, so that was much better. And you can see the transition on the right-hand side was running into it, and then he was bracing again into the next transition to canter. And you can see this transition on the left was not exactly where I wanted it, but it was much better. And then this is where we struggle on the left-hand side, getting that trot transition. You can see he's bracing, 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 and I'm giving him half halt, and then he finally comes back. And then he softens, which is what I wanted. And you can see the difference in the work. So I hope you appreciate this.